Hi again. So yeah, let's begin with how did you learn all the languages that you speak, and what are them?
Yeah. So I'm originally from the United States, and so obviously English was a given with a lovely Midwestern accent. And I studied Spanish. I've always loved Spanish. I grew up when I was younger until I was about 9 in Miami, Florida. And if you don't know, Miami, Florida is extremely Latin in culture. And so Spanish was all around me. It's almost the first language of Miami. So I grew up very close to the language of Spanish and Latin culture. And so my interest in Spanish began. I learned it in elementary school, little bits as you do. In high school in the US, you have to take, you can take 2 years of two languages or 4 years of one language. And I chose to take all 4 years of Spanish.
Oh, quick question. Did you get to like talk to your colleagues in the classroom in Spanish, like the people, the other children you're playing with or you're hanging out with?
In
Did you
Miami?
speak Spanish with them?
No, not
in
in
real
Miami.
life?
No,
Okay.
in Miami, no. And in Ohio, definitely not. They were witty. But then in university, we had a great teacher, actually. I had great teachers, Spanish teachers the whole time. But for me, it was always so closely knit to the culture. And I think that was why I wanted to learn it. I didn't want to learn it from a linguistic standpoint. It was because this is a culture. And to me, it was a way to open up a door to this whole world, which is the Spanish speaking world, which is a very large and vast and diverse, amazing world. Um, in university, I started doing a minor in Spanish. I majored in journalism, but I spent a semester in Madrid and decided then to do a full major in Spanish. So I have a double major. I also spent one of the probably most formative trips of my life was to Mexico when I was 16 for a month exchange. And that is where the travel bug came. After university, I left the United States and I traveled. I bought a one-way ticket. I graduated in June and I bought a one-way ticket to Australia in September. And I've been traveling ever since, almost 20 years. And I've lived in 12 countries. A large amount of them are Spanish speaking, and that allowed me to work on my Spanish. And it's quite funny because with Spanish, you have to relearn it every country because it varies so much. So I lived in Nicaragua, which was very different than when I lived in Mexico, which is very different than here in Spain, which is also very different than in Mallorca, which is very different than when I lived in Nicaragua and Uruguay. So it's just, yeah, that's been great. But I got to a really high level academically studying it. But when I was in Madrid, it was the point I'd say I became fluent. And I can remember the exact moment in a barbecue.
Oh, wow.
Actually in Cascais, in Portugal on a visit, and we were with some Spanish friends. And I remember sitting there and everybody was speaking. And I thought, I just understood it. I wasn't translating it. I wasn't getting lost. I realized I just understood it. The other language I speak, my travels took me to Sweden. I ended up in Sweden. I'm actually dual citizen of the United States and Sweden. And in Sweden, I was working for the Swedish Ecotourism Society, and I had a boss, Ulf Lovén, and he said, "You know what? We're just going to speak Swedish in the office."
Okay.
And it was just me and him, and like occasionally one other person. And he's like, "We're just going to speak Swedish." So for 40 hours a week, I spoke Swedish. And
how was it?
It was a learning curve. I had studied about 2 months, I guess, of Swedish. They have this program, Swedish for Immigrants. And I'd done a little bit of studying, but didn't really give it much thought. Then working, I'd say in 3 months, I became fluent.
That was the
It went
real immersion
so
every
quickly
single day.
every single day. And I can remember the moment again that I realized, anyways, consciously that it clicked. And I was in a meeting with the board members. And it was the exact same thing. It was you're sitting there and everyone's talking, and then all of a sudden you realize, I just understand, and you're like, oh my God. It's like that. I don't know, there's an episode in The Simpsons where Bart moves to France. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, not that one.
Old episode of The Simpsons, and Bart moves to France, and he lives in France, and he's kind of, I don't know, kind of like kidnapped by things that don't age well. But he lived with these people, and he ends up getting lost, and he escapes, and he starts saying like, I can't believe I've lived in this stupid country for this many this many months, and he's like, je parle un peu de français. And then he just all of a sudden starts going, he's like, oh wait, I am speaking French. I do speak French. And it's kind of that in real life, they really nailed it. That like you're sitting there like, God, I don't speak the language. And then, this is so frustrating. Y de repente estás allí hablando y no se sabe de dónde vino. And you're like, wow.
What?
And
Where did that came from?
And I find that no matter how long I've studied, for instance, Spanish, studied for 18 years, it's when your brain is forced to use that. And there's a lot of science that backs that up. But until your brain is forced to use it and forced to switch, it doesn't really ever make the switch. Yeah. And it doesn't implant it in the way that it needs to for it to become fluent.
Yeah. We need to use it in real life context. So it really becomes ingrained in our brains.
And I can give a little quick scientific background. Is basically our brains are extremely lazy. We don't like to think. The brain doesn't like to think. It doesn't like to work. It burns unnecessary calories.
It needs to save energy at all times.
So the body doesn't like to burn calories. So the brain doesn't like to do work. And so if you teach it something that it decides is not an important part of your life, it's not going to put much energy into storing it, keeping it. It's going to leave that space and all that energy for what it deems as important things. So the immersion really is a way of forcing your brain to realize like, oh no, this is something important.
Yeah.
And then your brain does what the brain does magically in the background, subconsciously. And that's really when you get that click moment.
Okay. And so now you're living in Barcelona, close by.
Yes.
And you have two beautiful children that I got the pleasure to meet one of them.
Your best friend,
during
Diana.
our meetings. She's always there. She's very punctual. And you're raising them. Of course, they speak English with you.
Yes.
And they speak Spanish at school.
Well, they speak Catalan at school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we speak English at home. They speak, They speak Catalan. Schools in Catalonia are fully in Catalan, but a lot of the kids in the school, because it's a very diverse school, they speak Spanish to each other. So we say like the language of the playground is Spanish. And my daughter my oldest particularly, probably speaks better Spanish than Catalan, but academically and in school and all the teachers is Catalan. So they speak Catalan, they speak Spanish, they speak English, and they speak Swedish.
God. And how is it for them? Do you think, so one thing that I hear a lot from parents is that, children will get confused with all these languages and they're not going to learn anything properly and blah, blah, blah. But what does your experience tell you?
They don't. And the earlier they get a language in, the better they are. They can mix it up. My daughter, we moved from Sweden, came into a school where Catalan and Spanish were spoken interchangeably. And they're very close, Catalan and Spanish. And so she was confused a little bit. What is Spanish? What was Catalan? What wasn't? And every year older she gets, she separates them better. She knows because academically, but as overall confused in language, no, she can switch back and forth. We can switch back and forth. I can have a paragraph conversation in 3 languages with my husband sometimes. And kids have an amazing ability because I think we forget how we evolved as humans, which was we evolved in places where you had a lot of very close contact with many different languages. And you see this in countries like India, you see this in lots of countries in Africa. So you see this place like India, you see this in countries in Africa where they may be what is a country now, but full of many tribes. And a lot of the people there will speak. South Africa, you may have someone who speaks Xhosa and English, maybe a bit of Afrikaans, and also Zulu. And so we actually as humans evolved to speak many languages because it's always been a necessity.
Yeah.
Because we need to trade with other tribes. Native Americans always spoke usually several languages of the tribes nearby. So we have the capacity. Children are even incredible, and you should be shoving languages into them because it goes this intuitive process for them is much quicker, and it implants in a different way than it does. Children learn languages in a different part of their brain, which makes them fully native in a way that you lose when you become older.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't have any problems. They love it. It's a very international area, so they're so used to. I think all of their friends speak at least 3 languages.
Oh, that's so
Many
cool.
of them speak 4. So to them, it's just completely normal.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So do you have any tips for parents raising multilingual children?
Yeah, if you can contextualize a language, it helps. In theory, I well, I speak English. In theory, my husband speaks Swedish to the kids. It's been a little bit less successful because we're used to having the family language in English. But if you can, when they're learning it, that helps them really keep the languages straight. So even with my daughter, I say, right, she'll be like, which Catalan is that? I'm like, Catalan is the one your teacher speaks. Spanish is the ones your friends speak. And so if you are learning teaching languages to your kids, for instance, if you have a bilingual parents, it's good if one parent speaks one language and the other parent speaks the other language, so the kid can just easily contextualize which is which and not have so much crossover. And yeah, just let them, expose them to languages. They pick them up. My daughter picks up French from her friends really quickly. She wants to learn Mandarin because she has a friend who's from China, and her accent, she's like, oh, what a shit. And it's like, they're just incredible. And so if you're raising multilingual children, it's like the gift, the biggest gift you can give them. And the more languages you learn is something, and you can speak to this. What I found is English is obviously a hybrid language of many languages. It's got Germanic roots, it's got Latin roots, but it's not purely either. And so it can make it a little tricky to learn other ones, particularly Latin languages. But once you have one Latin language, Spanish, it opens up a world. I can understand, I can read Portuguese perfectly. You can understand, you can almost speak Italian if you wanted to, and it opens up this whole world of Latin languages. And actually what I found with Swedish is it's really opened up Germanic languages. So now I can understand and recognize a lot more of German and things like that. And so just with those two languages, it opens up a lot. And so giving that to your children is it's such a valuable service. And I think as everybody who will come, our audience for Beyond Words Retreat knows, learning a language as an adult is hard. Our brains don't love to do it. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes energy. You're forced to go on amazing retreats in Galicia to make it work. But, so do I say to spare your children
the trouble of learning a language
as adult and all the time and energy that takes, give them languages young.
So if you would like to put in practice what you have been learning, either through the apps or in classrooms, in real life scenarios, in like a safe environment, join us next October. We're beginning with Spanish, of course, here in Galicia again. But we are expanding very soon to other countries and other languages. Portugal will come very soon. And then, let us know which languages you're learning and where should we go next.
Yes.